Can a movie actually be too stylized for its own good? Okay, everybody, today we're going all the way back to 1986 to look at a very cool but very stylized motion picture that I'm sure had all of us at one point or another on the edge of our seats. We are talking about Manhunter. Anyway, before we dig into this gem anymore, before we look into this thing and dissect it the way we always do, once again, and as always, to the trailer.
Intruder entered through kitchen sliding door. Nationwide victims.
Yeah, this is Will Graham of the FBI.
One killer.
This is what the subject's teeth look like.
Have you ever seen blood in the moonlight, Will?
William, you're gonna make yourself sick or get yourself killed.
Multiple trails.
Just your ringhouse sport.
One hunter.
I'm gonna find you. Damn it.
FBI agent Will Graham. Manhunter.
Alright, this motion picture was directed by Michael Mann. You know the name, he's been around. We're talking about things like Thief. We're talking about Heat, and The Insider, and Collateral, and Ali, and Black Cat, and Public Enemies, and Ferrari, and Miami Vice, and a little horror movie that everybody forgets, The Keep. So, been around, you know the name, probably. Heard him before, let's keep moving. Playing Agent Will Graham, William Petersen. Let's go. He was in Thief. He was in To Live and Die in L.A. and Cousins and Amazing Grace and Chuck and Young Guns 2 and Fear and Gun Shy and The Skulls, but TV, you know, CSI Vegas, Manhattan, CSI for 13 years. I mean, come on, that's where most of the public is going to know him from. So, it is what it is. Let's keep moving. Playing Agent Crawford, Dennis Farina. Everybody knows the face, not many remember the name. Let's keep going. We're talking about he was involved in things like in Midnight Run, and Striking Distance, and Little Big League, and Get Shorty, and Saving Private Ryan, and tons of TV. Law and Order, Luck, The In-Laws, Crime Story, Hunter. So, you see his face, you're like, okay, a million times before. Playing Dr. Hannibal Lecktor, Brian Cox. What? It wasn't? No, it was Brian Cox. Let's run the numbers. We're talking about he has been in things like Rob Roy and Braveheart and Chain Reaction and The Long Kiss Goodnight and The Boxer and The Corruptor and Super Troopers, oh god, and The Bourne Identity and X-Men United and Troy and The Ringer and Zodiac and massive amounts of television. So it is what it is. Brian Cox, been around for a long time, was on the scene for a very long time. There you go. Playing Francis Dollarhyde, a.k.a. the Tooth Fairy, Tom Noonan. Here we go. We're talking about Wolfen. We're talking about Easy Money and Best Defense and FX and RoboCop 2 and Heat and Last Action Hero and The Astronaut's Wife and the Knockaround Guys in TV. Hell on Wheels, 12 Monkeys, North and South, Book 3, basically anywhere where you needed a guy with a weird look and all that kind of stuff. Wait a minute, wasn't he in Eight-Legged Freaks too? Now that I think about it. I mean, Eight-Legged Freaks, not Eight-Legged Freaks Part 2, but you know what I'm saying. Let's keep going. Playing Molly Graham, Kim Geist. Yep, let's take a look. She was involved in things like Chud in Brazil and Throw Mama from the Train and The Hiding Place in TV, Chicago Hope, Wise Guy, Miami Vice, Monsters. Show in and around on the scene. Not going to be like a name that jumps out at you, but you might say, didn't she play in that level? Playing Reba, Joan Allen. Let's go. She was in Death Race. She was in stuff like Nixon and Room and The Crucible and the Bourne flicks, you know, however many of them there were. And The Notebook and The Contender and Face Off. And Peggy Sue Got Married and The Ice Storm and Pleasantville and TV, you know, Luck and The Killing and Family. Again, a face that might hit you and say, wasn't she in? There you go. Playing Freddy, Stephen Lang. What? Yeah, that guy. You know, the dude from Avatar and Don't Breathe, 1 and 2, and Project X and The Hard Way, and Tombstone and Gettysburg and Fire Down Below, and TV stuff. You know, Terra Nova, The Fugitive, Crime Story. You know what I mean? He's almost playing kind of against type in this thing, but it is what it is. You know the guy. Picture Avatar, scars on the face, gray hair, kind of jacked up, that shit. And in here, he's a big dweeb. Ha! Gotta love it. Okay, everybody, we're going to try to do this in 90 seconds or less. We can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving. And so we can get to that place where I like to drone on forever. The summation. The motion picture starts off on the beach, where you have these two guys, and they're sitting down having a conversation. And Graham is talking to his old police buddy, and his old police buddy is saying to him, hey man, we have a case. I need your magic. You're the only guy that can nail this guy. You got Hannibal Lecktor. This dude's a psychopath. He's going to kill by the next full moon, and we need you on the scene. Well, Graham really ain't feeling it. He doesn't really want to get involved. But he says, well, okay, kind of, sort of, whatever. He goes and talks to his wife. His wife says, you remember what happened last time? This really did some damage to you. I'm worried about you. It is what it is. Do you want to do it? He goes, I'm going to have to do it. And away he goes. Before you know it, he visits the crime scene. Whoa, where this guy is apparently done some really heinous shit. And we come to find out that the man who did this really heinous shit is being referred to by the police as the Tooth Fairy. Because he likes to bite his victims because he's actually completely screwed up in the mind. Well, through his ability to strangely and oddly get inside the mind of a serial killer and almost become them, he winds up figuring out that this guy made a few mistakes and left behind some fingerprints. Well, they're running the fingerprints, all this other kind of stuff. He leaves. Before you know it, he runs into an old reporter who remembers him, who's asking him what's going on, what's the scene, what's going down. These two obviously don't like each other. We'll get more into that later. But before you know it, Graham says to his partner, you know, Farina, hey, I'm going to go talk to the one guy who might be able to help me out crack this thing. The one, the only, Dr. Hannibal Lecktor, who I busted before, yes, who was a psychopath, yes, who used to eat people, yes, but hey, he's brilliant, and why not go talk to him? He goes and he visits him. Actually, you can tell this is a very uneasy situation. This is a very tricky situation. Hannibal has some ideas. He has some ideas. Hannibal is still upset that this guy busted him and put him in jail and says things to him like, the only reason you caught me is because you're like me. That deep inside we're the same human being. Graham doesn't like that because it hit a little bit too goddamn close to home, and he goes running out the door, having an emotional breakdown where that same photographer takes his pictures and puts it in the paper, basically saying, Graham is looking for the Tooth Fairy killer, and he got some help from Dr. Hannibal Lecktor. Well, Graham is actually investigating another crime scene that the Tooth Fairy committed, and while he's doing that, he's getting some crazy insights into this guy about just how sick he is, just how dark he is in the mind, and he has a strange thing about home videos. Anyway, we'll keep going. Through some hook and some crook and some actually kind of devious ways, Dr. Hannibal Lecktor finds out where Agent Graham lives and gets his home address. What does this mean? We don't know yet. But come to find out, they find out that Dr. Hannibal Lecktor is in constant contact with the Tooth Fairy. Yes, the Tooth Fairy is sending him messages, and Dr. Hannibal Lecktor is answering the Tooth Fairy by putting ads in the local paper, somehow, giving messages to him. It is what it is. You just got to roll with it. Anyway, after all this, they're trying to decipher the secret code going back between Dr. Hannibal and the Tooth Fairy to find out exactly what is going on and exactly what it means. And they also say, hey, maybe we can draw this Tooth Fairy guy out by writing some stuff about him that is really just, well, how can it be worse? But it is worse about what this guy is and what he thinks and what it's like. So Graham teams up with the reporter, Stephen Lang, who gives him a bunch of shit, and they put out this fake story about how he thinks this guy is a real sick ticket beyond being the sick ticket that he is. And before you know it, the Tooth Fairy does come out. And he does kidnap such reporter, and he does set him ablaze and set him on fire. There you go. They actually find out going between Lecktor and the Tooth Fairy that now Lecktor has given the Tooth Fairy the address of Graham's family, so they have to move them to protective custody or whatever like that, so he can't get to him. Cut over. We also see that the Tooth Fairy, who we now know who he is basically at his job, and he falls for, and she falls for him, a blind girl. Yes, a blind girl. See, he works in a photo developing lab, which leads to the fact that Graham now figures out the thing that links these cases together is that this guy is hunting these families because he's helped develop the film from their home movies. Holy shit is what it is. They are now on the lookout. They got their guy. But as they're on the way to the guy, whoo, that guy's a little bit of a bug. And the girl he kind of fell for, well, now he kind of thinks he's cheating on him, even though she ain't cheating on him. Whatever. Will Graham get there in time with Farina and find her and save her and stop the Tooth Fairy from his, killing of this girl, even though he killed one of her co-workers right in the front lawn and somehow nobody got back to him about this. But whatever. It is what it is. There's some flaws, but there's a lot of goodness. Doesn't matter. That's the story. We're rolling. We're getting to the summation. Let's get it done. All right, everybody. Does Manhunter work? Yes, it works. It's a very solid, well done, crafty, suspenseful crime drama that everybody should at one point or another check out. Really good stuff. But before we get into all the reasons why, let's get the big three out of the way first. The directing. Solid. Man knows how to make a movie look good. He does. He knows how to frame a shot. He knows how to put it together. He knows how to make it visually stimulating. Yes, this motion picture is heavily stylized, maybe too stylized, and we'll get to that in a moment, but it has a look, it has a vibe, he delivers on it. There's points in it, though, that are kind of like they catch your attention, where he almost goes from like the very stylized, very deliberate, very set up look to almost like handheld and just thrown in there street photography in a way. But it doesn't distract from the normal mode and the normal vibe that he's creating. So the directing, it's good, all you need to know. The writing, the dialogue, and the story are great. There's no problems with it. You don't have to worry about anything. It's solid. The dialogue will keep you entertained. And the writing on a story level is obviously up there too. So there's no complaints in that department. Let's move on. In the acting, listen, there's no names in this thing that are going to get you to go to the theater just because it's them. These are not the Tom Cruises or the Clint Eastwoods or any of that kind of stuff. There's nobody in this motion picture like that. But you do have people that can deliver solid and steady work, and that's all you need to make any motion picture, let's be brutally honest. Noonan is great as the Tooth Fairy. He is. I mean, yes, he has a look. If you just need the guy that's like awkward and off-putting, just friggin' stick Noonan in there. But he delivers as an actor, and he gives this movie what it needs. Brian Cox, I know everybody thinks Hannibal Lecktor, and you know where they go. But Brian Cox did a great, great job in this motion picture. It was kind of a different take on Lecktor, probably a little bit more accurate to the book, but he delivers. He is really unsettling as this kind of guy that's just in this cell, sitting there, smallish, looking at you through those eyes. He delivers. No more needs to be said than that. Farina is good in his role. Petersen does well in his role. Sometimes they have him a little bit too, but that's more of a directing thing, and we'll get into that in a moment or two. But acting, solid, no problems. All right, everybody, let's get into what makes this motion picture work. First off, it delivers on what it's supposed to be. It's suspenseful, it's well done, it's entertaining, and it keeps you engaged from beginning to end. And that is 90% of your battle. And one of the things I always talk about with any motion picture, pacing. Pacing is everything in a motion picture. And this motion picture has it, delivers it, and gives it to you perfectly. And because it has good pacing, it has the one thing that every motion picture needs, and very few of them ever give you: character development. A motion picture without character development, you might just go watch a Transformers flick or something. You know what I'm saying? You need character development. You need to care about the characters to really see or care about where this thing is going. And this motion picture has it. You're sitting there engulfed with the William Petersen character because you're like, okay, there's a lot going on here. This guy's got a lot of demons, maybe? I don't know what you want to call them. But you get to explore all those things because they give you enough time. They give you enough character development. You see the, let's say, full facet of who he is, that he's a father and a cop and he's tortured, but that he does have that extremely sick and odd and weird ability to get inside the mind of a killer, almost to the point where it makes you unsettling watching him do it. There's parts of this motion picture where you're like, if I was a friend in a room with this guy watching him, I'd be like, dude, what's up with you? What's up with you? This is uncomfortable, man. You're saying this is weird. But they give you all that within the character. And it's well developed, well played, and well acted. So, pacing and character development are just about everything to a motion picture, and you get them both here. Also, obviously, we all know it's based on a book and series, but we get that. We know. We're not going to get into all that shit. But the story itself is intriguing and entertaining. You got this guy who once was, profiler, whatever. Now he's being dragged back in, almost against his will or wanting to basically even do it because he knows it takes him to a mentally dark place that puts him in a sanitarium that he can't handle because he's got too much in like with the killers, and it drives him crazy, and he starts to say, what's wrong with me, myself, and all that kind of stuff. You got the drawn out world of the Tooth Fairy, who actually you get to see live in a semi-normal, whatever you want to call it, life, which is what it is. And you see how this guy is like a really out there human being. I mean, he's got all kinds of demons and problems. But you sit there and say, okay, this is how he fits into the society he lives in. You got all these different characters that are working on different levels, and they all are well thought out and well presented on film. And that's because you have a good solid story and a good solid script that gives you later on a chance for character development and anything else that you need. And finally, about this motion picture, this is a good and a bad, a plus and a minus. This motion picture is extremely stylized. I mean, it is overtly stylized, which is nothing wrong with. I mean, any Brian De Palma film kind of gives you that. Movies like Cat People give you that. But I don't know if there's ever a movie that gave you that so much that you could almost pinpoint the moment that it was made. When you watch this motion picture, you're going to look at it and say, this is definitely 1986. You're going to see it and you're going to know it. It has that look. It has that vibe. I mean, everything is there, from the music to the pastel colors to the whole way that they put the soundtrack together. It's one of those things. You watch this thing and it just, it's 1986 and there is no mistaking it. And again, all the shots are so stylized and so thought out that, yes, it gives you a cohesive look, but sometimes it can just be a little bit awkward. You know what I'm talking about? There's too many times where he's like sitting there having a talk with his wife, and all of a sudden they're sitting next to the lake and the smoke is just perfectly billowing and the light's coming in from the side. And like I said earlier, there's a bit of a commercial vibe to this motion picture. There's times where this motion picture feels like it was shot almost like a commercial, where William Petersen would be standing there, too perfect, with his hand against the wall, holding his cigarette, looking into the camera, deep in thought, raindrops behind him. And you're like, okay, is this a Calvin Klein ad or is this a motion picture? So the extreme stylized nature of this motion picture does give it its own look and its own identity, but also it can be a little bit distracting at times, and it can be a little bit too polished, if you will. And another thing to go along with the over-stylized look is, yes, the score and the soundtrack. The score is actually not bad. It's very computer-ish, or I should say synthesizer-ish. You know what I mean? A little bit Carpenter-esque, where it's a lot of droning notes and all that kind of shit. And it works. It's actually effective, and it serves the motion picture. But they put songs in here at times. And you're like, that song might as well have came out of, like, some shit 80s flick, because it's so identifiable to that time. It's like, oh, that song would kind of work in the scene in Terminator, where they're in tech noir, or it would work in Electric 2, Boogaloo, Breakin', or whatever those movies were. It just it pulls you for a second. And the fact that they ended the motion picture, it could have ended with just the sounds of the beach and it would have been effective. Anything would have been effective. But to put a cheese dick song like that, I can't remember if it was called The Heartbeat or whatever it was. It was, I remember watching the motion picture and saying to myself, why would they end it with that song blaring in the background? That is A, a horrible song, and B, completely inappropriate to everything that you just built up here. So, I don't get that. There are things about the soundtrack that are good, or the score, I should say. But then the soundtrack where the songs are in there are just off-puttingly shitty and completely 80s stylized. They are what they are. It goes part and postal, hand in hand for what you get in this motion picture. Also, if I had to make one other little complaint, it would be the ending. I think that the ending didn't quite live up to what the rest of the motion picture was leading into it. It felt too simple. Almost too TV show, too movie-ish of an ending. Yes, you had the drama. Are they going to save the girl? Are they going to get to the Tooth Fairy's girlfriend, or ex by now, but he's about to kill her, and bring her out of the clutches of the evil Tooth Fairy? Are they going to save her? But it kind of resolves itself in just a simple bang, bang, shoot him up. You know, he's got a shotgun and they're taking him down. Kind of an ending. You know what I mean? It didn't have like a big played out, thought-driven emotion. It's just kind of boom, 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 and ended. And you're like, huh. And let's be honest, the Tooth Fairy's shootout scene at the end, it felt like it came out of a music video. It really did. His whole kitchen scene with the bluish, grayish pastel colors, the way it was lit, you're like, that looks like a set for a TV show and a music video. It just did. It just did. Again, overall, really good movie. But there's a few things, and it's what I do to point them out. And literally, that scene where he's standing in that kitchen, and I'm like, this looks like, you know, the backyard or the back set of like a Billy Idol white wedding in the kitchen video. It just had that look and that style, which again, it is what it is. It was what it was. You got something stylized, but you got something that just at moments looks like TV commercial music video vibe. All put into one. It's a product of its time. All right, everybody, be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Be kind to a stranger. Be there for a friend. But most of all, more than anything, never, and I mean never, take any bullshit from anybody. See y'all soon.